The vastness of space held many secrets, but none were as strange or as feared as the Silent Zone. It was a huge swath of star systems that stretched across the galaxy's outer rim empty. Quiet and deadly. Every star chart showed it as a black scar, a place where ships disappeared without trace and where no signal had ever returned. The Silent Zone was a warning, carved in light years. Here lies human space and here lies danger. The Galactic Council had tried for centuries to explore the area. Scout ships, diplomatic vessels, even small colonies had been sent to unlock its mystery. None returned. Communications stopped, sensors went dark, and the space was swallowed by silence. Every attempt to breach the zone ended with lost crews and vanished fleets. As time passed, rumors grew. Some said ancient weapons lay buried there. Others whispered about a forgotten war so brutal it poisoned the very stars. But no one knew. For sure, one thing was certain. The galaxy avoided human space, was a place marked by fear. In the Council's command chamber, a hushed urgency filled the air. Holoprojections of star maps glowed over tables as alien officials debated their next move. The Silent Zone had changed. It was no longer just empty space, it was awakening. Just that morning, an alien scout ship, on a routine patrol, entered the border of the zone. For the first time in decades, it sent back a message fragmented, strange and terrifying. "They are not alone," the scout's last transmission said, "and they are waiting." The words echoed in the silent chamber. No one understood what it meant. Who was waiting? And for what? Panic rippled through the council. The Silent Zone was no longer just a ghost on the map, it was a looming threat. Meanwhile, aboard the scout ship Varez's Edge, Commander Rollick watched the dark stars with narrowed eyes. The zone stretched out before them like a silent void, deeper than any space they had ever crossed. The ship's sensors flickered and sputtered, struggling to find any signal. Every system hummed with tension, every crew member alert. Raylick's mind raced. The Silent Zone had always been forbidden territory, but today they had orders. Investigate the strange transmission rumored to come from inside. The message had not come from any known system. It was raw, unrefined, almost alive. It carried a strange energy that unsettled even the bravest. Suddenly the ship's sensors caught movement. Not a fleet, not a probe, something else. Something. Big shadows drifting near a dead star. They looked like ships but organic. Living machines that pulsed with eerie red light. The Vera's Edge was too far to make out details, but the crew felt the chill of dread crawling up their spines. The captain gave the order to retreat. But before they could turn, the ship's systems began to fail. Communications blinked off. Engines stuttered. And then, in the final moments, the ship sent out its last message. They are not alone, and they are waiting. Back on the council world, alarms blared, commanders scrambled. It was clear something ancient and dangerous stirred in human space. The Silent Zone was not empty, it was filled with something no one understood. Historians and scientists pored over ancient archives. They dug into forbidden records, piecing together a dark history long buried. Humans had fought a terrible war centuries ago, a war that almost destroyed their species. In those times, they had discovered weapons and powers that could change the fate of entire stars. Some believed humans had changed themselves to survive. Others whispered that humans had made a pact with an unknown force, something outside the laws of the galaxy. Whatever the truth, the galaxy had chosen to forget. The Silent Zone was the boundary between past horrors and the future. It was a line no one dared cross. On Earth, life went on unaware. Humans looked to the stars with hope and fear. They built ships, explored nearby planets, and sent probes to unknown worlds. But deep inside, there was a stirring and ancient memory locked in their blood, something waiting to awaken. On a remote research station orbiting Mars, Dr. Alina Voss studied strange energy patterns coming from deep space. She noticed signals emerging from the Silent Zone signals that seemed like whispers, like a heartbeat in the dark. She tried to warn the council, but her messages were dismissed as paranoia. The galaxy had long ago written off human space as a danger zone best left alone. Alina didn't give up. She sent a small unmanned probe into the silent zone, hoping to capture any sign of life or technology. The probe sent back strange images, ghostly shapes moving against the black void, glowing red patterns that shifted like living veins. She knew then that the silent zone was more than a mystery. It was a warning. The galaxy was about to learn why it had been so afraid of human space. In the depths of the silent zone, hidden behind clouds of dust and shattered worlds, an ancient structure waited. It was not a ship, not a station, but something older, a relic from a time when humans were not yet human. It pulsed with a red light that seemed to breathe. This place was the heart of the silent zone, the source of the galaxy's fear. Inside, a figure moved human, but changed. Eyes glowing faintly, blood humming with power, and a mind connected to the very fabric of space and memory. They had waited for centuries, silent and patient, watching the galaxy's fear grow. And now, the waiting was over. The silent zone was no longer empty. It was alive, and it was ready to speak. The galaxy had long ignored the faint signals coming from the edges of human space. Many dismissed them as space noise, echoes of distant storms, or malfunctioning machines. But deep within Earth's secret communication hubs, those signals meant something far more urgent, something that had been buried for centuries. At the edge of the silent zone, a strange radio pulse repeated itself across multiple frequencies. It was unlike anything the Galactic Council had encountered before. Signal that was half message, half warning. It carried no words at first, only strange patterns that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Scientists struggled to decode the signal, but every attempt only raised more questions. On Earth, Dr. Alina Voss watched the signal intensify on her screens. She had spent months trying to convince others that something ancient was waking inside the silent zone. Now the signal was growing stronger, closer to breaking through the galaxy's noise. Alina knew that if the Council ignored it, disaster might follow. The signal began to take form, revealing faint images, ancient star charts, symbols that no known race had ever used, and glimpses of battles so fierce that stars themselves seemed to shatter. The message was clear. Humanity had a secret past, one that the galaxy had tried to erase. Across the stars, the Council convened emergency meetings. The message could no longer be ignored, but fear paralyzed them. Humans were truly connected to the silent zone. What did that mean for the fragile peace? Some argued to destroy Earth before the truth could spread. Others begged for diplomacy, hoping to understand. Meanwhile, the signal grew louder, more complex. It began to speak in a code not made of words, but of feelings, memories locked deep inside human DNA, memories that the signal tried to awaken. It was a call to remember. On the horizon bloom. Secret exploratory vessel crewed by humans and aliens alike. Captain Salek studied the signal. The crew was uneasy. Signal was not just a warning, it was a challenge. It spoke of power buried deep beneath the surface of human existence. Power that the galaxy feared but could not explain. Saleks knew their mission was about to change. The silent zone was no longer a mystery to avoid. It was a storm on the horizon, and Earth was at its center. The mission to explore the silent zone had become more urgent. The mysterious signal was a call no one could ignore, and the Council authorized a small fleet to investigate a lost human colony, one forgotten in the shadows of the galaxy for centuries. The planet, designated Arco 7, was once a bustling human outpost, but reports from deep space probes showed it had gone dark long ago. Captain Jara and her crew aboard the Starbreaker descended through the thick atmosphere of Arco 7 with cautious hope. From orbit, the planet looked eerily quiet. Vast ruins sprawled across its surface. Cities swallowed by twisted metal and shattered stone. There were no signs of life, no radio chatter, nothing but silence. As the landing party stepped onto the cracked soil, a heavy stillness pressed against their senses. Strange symbols were etched into every building, glowing faintly in the twilight, like warnings etched in blood. The air tasted different, thick with dust, and something older. Something alive, exploring deeper. They found remnants of the colony's last days, hastily abandoned camps, scattered weapons, and signs of struggle. But there were no bodies. It was as if the entire population had vanished into thin air. Then, Captain Jarrah's science officer uncovered a hidden chamber beneath the ruins. Inside was a strange artifact, pulsing with a dim red light. When touched, it sent waves of images into their minds, visions of terrifying creatures hunting the colonists. Shadows moving through the night, and a rising darkness inside the people. Themselves, the colony hadn't been destroyed by an external enemy. It had been consumed from within, back on Earth. Dr. Alina Voss analyzed the data coming from Arcos 7, the images sent by the Starbreaker. Matched the patterns in the ancient signal. There was something inside human DNA, something dark, dormant, and dangerous. The Council scrambled to understand. Was the Silent Zone a prison, a warning, or a reflection of humanity's own shadow? Fear grew that the galaxy's decision to avoid human space had been more than just caution. It had been a desperate attempt to contain a threat. Meanwhile, the human survivors of the lost colony were scattered, hidden in the shadows of the galaxy. They carried the same blood, the same secret power, waiting for the day when the Silent Zone would awaken again. Captain Jarrah stood before her crew, the red light of the artifact casting long shadows. "We thought we were alone," she said softly. "But the darkness inside us, it's still alive. And now, so is the galaxy's fear." The Silent Zone was no longer just a place to avoid. It was a battlefield waiting to be born. The Galactic Council had ruled over the stars for millennia, a coalition of species united in fragile peace. Yet the news from Arcos 7 had shaken even the oldest counselors to their core. Secrets once buried deep beneath the surface of diplomacy now clawed their way into the light. The Silent Zone was no longer a forgotten boundary. It was a wound in the galaxy's collective conscience. In the Grand Chamber of the Council, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered in uneasy silence. The holographic star maps flickered above their heads, marking the dark. Forbidden space labeled simply as human territory. The discussion was tense, voices low and urgent. As the gravity of the situation unfolded, one elder counselor rose, her eyes sharp as she addressed the assembly. "For too long, we have avoided this space. We have pretended that human history is just a footnote. But the truth is far darker. We have records hidden for good reason of a war so brutal that it nearly shattered the galaxy. The humans fought not only enemies outside, but battles within themselves." She paused, letting her words settle like dust in the air. "The so-called shadows, an enemy we believed extinct, were once locked in a deadly struggle with humanity. These shadows are more than creatures. They're a force that infects and corrupts, feeding on fear and rage. If the reports from Arcos 7 are true, then this ancient enemy may be returning." Gasps echoed through the chamber. The shadows were a nightmare whispered in legend, a dark force that had once nearly destroyed entire star systems. Their resurgence meant that the galaxy faced a threat greater than any it had known. Other counselors argued fiercely. Some called for immediate quarantine of human space, isolating Earth and all its colonies. Others warned against rash action, urging caution and diplomacy. Yet beneath the debates, an unspoken truth hung in the air. Humanity's past was a Pandora's box, and opening it could mean disaster. Meanwhile, on Earth, the people were unaware of the storm gathering among the stars. They went about their lives, building new ships, advancing technology, and dreaming of exploring the galaxy. But beneath the surface, an ancient power stirred. Waiting to rise again, Dr. Alina Voss received classified transmissions from the Council, warning of escalating tensions and possible sanctions. She knew that the time for hiding was over. Humanity had to confront its past, not just for survival, but for the future of the entire galaxy. Across Earth's major spaceports, ships prepared for potential conflict. Pilots trained in secret. Scientists studied ancient texts, rediscovered in hidden archives. The Silent Zone's mystery was no longer a tale of fear. It was a call to arms. In the shadows of the Council's chambers, a secret faction moved, known only as the Watchers. They had long monitored humanity's rise and fall. Some saw them as guardians, others as jailers. Now their presence was more active than ever. They leaked warnings to sympathetic counselors, spread rumors of humanity's hidden strength, and prepared contingencies for a war the galaxy hoped to avoid. Their message was clear. The galaxy feared humans for a reason. That fear was rooted in truth. As tension mounted, the Silent Zone pulsed with an unseen energy. Ships of all races held back, sensing something ancient awakening. The galaxy faced a choice: confront the darkness within humanity, or continue to turn away, hoping the shadows would fade. Captain Jara and the crew of the Starbreaker looked toward the horizon, knowing their mission had only just begun. The Silent Zone was no longer just a boundary on a map. It was a threshold to a new era of uncertainty and survival. The galaxy's silence was shattered, not by weapons or fleets, but by a message. Earth, for centuries ignored and feared, finally spoke. The signal was unlike anything the Galactic Council or any species had ever heard. Calm, steady, and hauntingly human. It wasn't a declaration of war, nor a plea for peace. It was a warning wrapped in truth. Across star systems, every listening post caught the broadcast. The words were simple but heavy: we remember. We survived. We will not be erased again. The message rippled through space like a slow pulse, a heartbeat echoing from a distant world that refused to be forgotten. On Earth, the broadcast was planned, but secret. Leaders understood the risk of revealing their power and their past, yet they chose honesty over fear. Humanity would no longer hide in the shadows of their history or the galaxy's mistrust. In the grand halls of the United Nations Space Council, Ambassador Myra Lang spoke with quiet conviction. We do not seek conquest. We do not crave war. But we will defend ourselves against those who choose fear over understanding. The galaxy must know the truth. Humanity has survived horrors no other species can imagine. Her strength is born from that survival. Her speech was met with mixed reactions. Some alien delegates recoiled in fear, others nodded in respect, but none could deny the weight of her words. The Silent Zone was not just a boundary, it was a scar from a war that shaped humanity's very blood. Meanwhile, deep in the heart of human space, scientists worked tirelessly. Dr. Alina Voss led teams studying the Vaultan ancient genetic memory hidden in human DNA. Awakened by the recent events, the Vault held secrets older than recorded history, memories of wars, of pain, and of incredible power. Elena's research revealed that the Vault was not a curse, but a weapon of survival, a biological legacy that had saved humanity from extinction. It connected every human to the past, 2 battles fought long ago, and to a power that the galaxy both feared and misunderstood. Across the stars, the Council debated the broadcast. Some called for renewed sanctions, others for dialogue. But the truth was clear. Humanity was no longer a passive player. It was awake, aware, and ready. Captain Jara, aboard the Starbreaker, listened to Earth's message with a mix of awe and apprehension. The humans she had once seen as victims were now bearers of a terrible strength. The Silent Zone was no longer a place of fear. It was a proving ground. Her crew prepared for what was coming. New ships were built, weapons tested, alliances forged. The galaxy was changing. And at its center stood humanity unchanged by time, unbroken by fear. As the human message echoed across the void, an ancient shadow stirred. Somewhere in the depths of the Silent Zone, something old and dangerous awakened. Watching the galaxy's response, the battle for the future was beginning, not just between species, but between memory and oblivion. Darkness spread through the Silent Zone like a creeping fog. The warnings were no longer whispers in secret meetings or hidden archives. The shadows, the ancient enemy of humanity, were coming back. Their presence was felt first as a chill, In the cosmic winds, then a sudden disappearances of entire fleets on the borders of human space. Ships vanished without a trace, leaving only cold silence in their wake. The Galactic Council scrambled to understand the threat. Scanners detected strange energy signatures, shifts in space-time that no known technology could explain. The shadows were not just creatures. They were a force that bent reality, infecting star systems like a virus spreading through the veins of the galaxy. The fear that had long haunted human space was now a reality everyone had to face. On Earth, preparations moved swiftly. Humans who had once hidden their power now trained openly. Soldiers learned to harness the vault's strength, using abilities that defied explanation. The ancient memories locked in their blood became weapons keys to survival. The people who had once been avoided, mocked, feared, were now the galaxy's first line of defense. Captain Jarrah's fleet stood ready at the edge of the silent zone, their ships gleaming under the distant stars. The crew knew the battle ahead would test every limit of their courage and resolve. They were fighting not just for Earth, but for every species caught in the shadow of the coming war. The shadows attacked suddenly, like a storm tearing through calm seas. Their ships emerged from rifts in space, dark and organic, pulsing with malevolent energy. The first skirmishes were brutal fleet against fleet, light against shadow, hope against despair. The galaxy watched in horror and awe as humanity unleashed its hidden powers, revealing technology and biology fused in ways no one had imagined. The battle raged across stars and nebulae, each side pushing harder, suffering losses unimaginable. Yet the shadows were relentless, driven by an ancient hunger to consume and corrupt. But humanity fought with something the shadows could never understand: the fierce will to survive, to protect and to reclaim their place in the galaxy. As the conflict escalated, alliances shifted. Some species chose to stand with humanity, recognizing that the old fears must be set aside. Others clung to suspicion, unwilling to face the truth. The galaxy was fracturing, and the war threatened to tear it apart. Amid the chaos, a new hope emerged. Deep within the vault, a message older than any living being began to surface. It spoke of a final reckoning, a chance to end the shadows once and for all. But to reach it, humanity and its allies would have to face the darkest parts of their own history and power. The Silent Zone, once a place to fear, had become the battlefield for the galaxy's future. And as the shadows closed in, the stars held their breath. The void between stars had never been so alive with tension. Fleets gathered on the edges of the Silent Zone, their hulls gleaming under distant suns, engines humming with power and purpose. The galaxy was no longer a place of peace and quiet. It was a battlefield, and at its heart was humanity feared, misunderstood. And now, unyielding Captain Jarrah stood on the bridge of the Starbreaker, eyes fixed on the swirling shadows beyond. The veil of space. The enemy was unlike anything her crew had ever faced, shapes that shifted like smoke, ships that seemed to be part machine, part living organism. The shadows moved with deadly precision, but humanity had a secret. Beneath the surface of human ships, a new technology pulsed with life. It was not just metal and circuits. It was bonded with human biology, creating weapons that healed as they fought, weapons that learned and adapted in real time. The vault's power flowed through every crew member, connecting them to each other and to the ship. This was not war as the galaxy knew it till it was evolution. The first volleys of the battle tore through space like thunder. Beams of light cut through darkness. Explosions painted the void with fire. The Starbreaker weaved through enemy fire, its crew working as one: pilots, engineers, soldiers, all linked by the vault's awakening. As the battle raged, something extraordinary happened. Humans began to exhibit powers that defied explanation, healing wounds instantly, sensing enemy movements before they happened, even manipulating the environment around them. The shadows were powerful, but the blood of humanity was something else entirely. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. The war had revealed a truth no one was prepared for. Humans were not just survivors. They were something new, a force that could reshape the stars. But the battle was far from over. The shadows fought with desperation, knowing their time was running out. They unleashed horrors that tested humanity's limits, creatures that twisted minds, ships that corrupted technology, and darkness that swallowed light. In the midst of chaos, alliances forged in fear now stood firm in hope. Alien fleets that once avoided human space fought side by side with Earth's warriors. The galaxy's future hung in the balance, and every soul knew the outcome would change everything. Captain Jar looked to her crew, their faces set with determination. "This is our moment," she said. "We fight not just for survival, but for the right to exist." The Silent Zone was no longer a place of fear. It was the birthplace of a new era. The battle that had raged across the Silent Zone was over. The stars hung quiet once more, but the galaxy had changed forever. The war had shattered old fears, broken long-held boundaries, forced every species to face a new reality. Humanity was no longer to be avoided or underestimated. They were a force that could not be ignored. Captain Jarrah stood on the bridge of the Starbreaker, looking out over the dark expanse where the final fight had taken place. The fleet around her was battered but victorious. The shadows, the ancient enemy that had haunted human history, were defeated, or so it seemed. There, corruption had been pushed back into the depths of space, but scars remained. Across the galaxy, leaders met in emergency sessions. The Galactic Council, once wary and distant, now listened to Earth's voice with respect and caution. Humanity's strength, born from survival and ancient power, was undeniable. The choice before the galaxy was clear: accept humans as allies and protectors, or face endless war and destruction. On Earth, celebrations mixed with solemn remembrance. The cost had been high, but the victory was a new beginning. Dr. Alina Voss addressed a gathering of scientists and leaders, her voice steady. "We have faced our past, our fears, and emerged stronger, but this is only the start. The vault within us is a gift hand, a responsibility. We must use it to build a future where the galaxy can live without fear." The Silent Zone, once a place of dread, was now a symbol of hope. The secrets that held the ancient powers and forgotten histories were no longer locked away but shared. With those ready to understand, humans opened their borders, inviting former enemies to learn and grow together. Captain Jarrah knew the path ahead would not be easy. Trust had to be rebuilt, old wounds had to heal, but the stars were wide and the galaxy was vast. With humanity and its allies united, a new era of exploration, cooperation, and strength was possible, as new ships launched from Earth's docks, carrying diplomats, explorers, and warriors alike. The galaxy watched with cautious optimism. The era of avoidance was over. The era of unity had begun, far beyond the reaches of known space. A final whisper stirred. The shadows might have been pushed back, but their darkness was not extinguished. Somewhere, waiting and watching, a new threat slowly took shape. The galaxy's peace was fragile and the story of humanity's rise was far from finished. But for now, the Silent Zone was silent no more. It was alive with promise, and the galaxy dared to hope.